Viva to the ANC, viva!
Viva!
Viva to the ANC, viva!
Viva!
Zethola kanjani? Sekukhuleni. Greetings to leadership of the African National Congress that is present here. Greetings to the most important people here today, the veterans of the African National Congress, comrades who have kept the Freedom Charter alive, even when it doesn't possible. Greetings to the members of the Women's League, the Young Men's Desk, COSAS, SASCO. We're a very big organization, Cde Snuki, President of the Women's League, of the Veterans League, not Women's League. I'll summarize by saying to the mass democratic movement, but most importantly to our religious leaders who are also present here. Comrades, it is not an ordinary day. We're celebrating a document and a program of action that was drafted in the days where no one could just draft. It was drafted by a special generation, a selfless generation. President of the Veterans League, when this document was drafted, there were no tenders, there was no corruption of black people, there were no government positions. It was drafted to unite South Africans and Africans in general, from all racial groups. Non-racialism of the African National Congress existed at that time. Not on paper, but practically. And I always mention this point that every time we look at ourselves in our NECs, whether it's UCLI, whether it's SASCO, whether it's COSAS, whether it's Women's League, whether it's the Veterans League, I was still a reflection of the values and the principles of the African National Congress. I was still a reflection of those that said united to fight against the oppressive system of apartheid. I was still a non-racial organization. I was non-racial on paper or non-racial practically. And those are discussions I think we need to have today. I'm seeing myself standing here as the president of the Youth League. My NEC does not reflect the non-racial character of the African National Congress. I'm saying we're no longer an organization that unites South Africans. That's why anyone in every corner, everywhere, President Snuki, can easily speak about one called, others were posting everywhere members of the ANC, but the ANC must align with us so-called Black Caucus. I'm raising this discussion when we're discussing the Freedom Charter because the Freedom Charter is a document. When others say that we must marshal whites and others to the sea, the Freedom Charter says let's unite everyone. And others left. The beginning of breakaways in the African National Congress was because of a discussion or a document that said let's unite everyone. We were not fighting to divide or fighting against injustice of this country. Or fighting that the economy of the country must reflect the demographics of the country. Or fighting against inequalities. Or fighting against apartheid. Or not fighting against the race or fighting against the system. It is this document that defined the African National Congress as an option to unite not only South Africa, but Africa and the world. Now the question we must ask ourselves today, every time we walk and speak, are we still ambassadors of the Freedom Charter? Or we've turned ourselves into a racist organization? Are we still obsessed about uniting everyone behind the agenda of the people? Are we still a representation of the people of South Africa? Or we are now representing self-interest, populist agendas at the expense of our people? Is our language still the same as the generation of gathered at the Congress of the People in 1955? Are we still the same people? Do we still have the same energy? Can we stand up confidently and say, we are charterists, we are the Congress of the People, the real one, not the one that has collapsed, that they're trying to create a parallel. The real one, not the one that how others behave, the foreigners that behave to create controversies that has become controversies. We're speaking about the selfless comrades who gathered, mobilized volunteers from all groupings, from all organizations, and drafted a charter that defines their agenda and their program. And we're ready to die for it. We're selflessly organized, mobilized, and even mobilized resources. Others left the country. Others were killed because we're in a position of that document. Are we still a representation of that? We need to really speak to our consciences. Those that go to church every Sunday, they know they go to church every Sunday to revive their conscience of what the Bible says, what God says, and they still fear. It is only the ANC President Snuki that people can lead the ANC without knowing its constitution and its values. And they can spend over 10 years in the movement without knowing the movement and the people and the organization they are in. Why can't we be like churches and every Sunday revive our conscience? Why we can't revive our conscience every Sunday? Because if churches know that their members must be reminded of what they stand for in society today, why the ANC as the parliament of the people can't do the same every Sunday or every Saturday and revive our conscience? Because when you have no conscience, you are it. How do an organization like ours that even in its constitution recognizes the Freedom Charter as a guiding document, but there are members of the movement who have not even seen the Freedom Charter? Why are we losing hegemony? We're losing hegemony because we have not addressed the most important points. We have not addressed, we've resolved the issue of political power, but we forgot that political power is aligned to economic power. We can't be the largest organization in Africa and the oldest and the largest in South Africa. I no longer say the biggest because people of South Africa put us below 40% or 40%. I say the largest because we are the largest because of number now. But we are the largest presiding over an economy that is still owned by those who are calling individual apartheid. Have we betrayed the Freedom Charter? Can we stand up proudly and say it is right that over 60%, 70% of the population are still in poverty? Over 70% of the population are dispossessed from their own economic activities of their own country. Is it right that the face of poverty in South Africa is still the same face of poverty that was there when the Freedom Charter was drafted 31 years later? Can you explain and say that 31 years later we have not been introduced export quotas on critical minerals of this country? Does it make sense that we've deindustrialized? I don't know why we've done that. When we're supposed to be the most industrialized because of the mineral below our soil allow us to create an economy, secondary and tertiary economy of this country. Who can explain why our factories have closed and turned into informal settlements? Who can explain why Jimistin Mangor has collapsed? No one can explain why there's high level of unemployment in this country, when we've got all the mineral resources to resolve all the social economic problems of this country. Now, as we celebrate 70 years of Charter, we need to ask ourselves that the next revolution will be really directed by the people. Why is the African National Congress used less than HMO? The fact is that the African National Congress is still the parliament of the people, but the people now want the ANC to resolve the economic challenges and the socio-economic challenges. Can we stand up every day and say those who are leading the ANC, whether branch or regional level or provincial level, when they speak in public, can we stand up and say that these people represent the Congress of the people? Does it make sense that in Polokwane, we elected a president who can explain? Why is today we're saying that we've known this man for years, that is an agent to collapse the movement, but we elected him and the members of the ANC majority elected him? Does it make sense that all these political parties know they can exist and formulate themselves and mobilize the people everywhere and organize themselves, and they know they'll fight voters because the ANC is no longer listened to? Does it make sense that the credibility of the messenger is a question? Because every message depends on the credibility of the messenger. And I always say this thing, that if you can take a criminal and put a criminal in public and say must speak against crime in that community where the criminal stays in, even if we can make the criminal wear the cleanest suit, but the community knows that at night this criminal does crime in the community. But does it make sense for the ANC to put the criminal up and say the criminal speak against crime when the credibility of the message is a question? Now, the biggest problem in summary of the full implementation of the future of school is that the problem of faced with as a movement is the credibility of the message. Are we credible messengers to society? Do they still believe us, or do we tell them that we will resolve their problems? And I think we must mobilize everyone here to say that the most important thing, the veterans here, we've got programs with the veterans as the youth league of just hours where we invite the veterans league and MK, the real MK, to come and tell the stories of where they're from and everywhere, or working together with the veterans league. The most important thing that we want to build there is understanding and the restoring of the credibility of the message. Because every message depends on the credibility of the message. If you are continuing to harbor, corrupt, indisciplined people in the movement, our message will always be questioned, because every message depends on the credibility of the message. And when we say we want a young leadership, we're not anti-old people. And I feel I must explain this thing. Because we're saying that the same way that Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, the four bears handed over and educated a younger generation and trained them with responsibility, in the same way the veterans of the movement must do. Because you never learn if you are not in action. Now, when we're saying that pensioners must move, the youth must take over, we're not ageist. We're saying it's time for us to be given responsibility and be guided by those who came before us to lead the revolution moving forward. Because society demands that. The mood on the ground is saying that they need leadership. It is not an ageist agenda. It's saying that we need to change the faces, we need to introduce new agendas, we need a new revolutionary agenda, which is economic freedom now, not later. And we felt that we'll never fight veterans, we're very close to veterans. And those that want to divide the movement, utilize that to say that the Youth League is anti-old people, is an ageist organization. No. We're saying that how the demographics reflect in this country, which are youth in majority, it is how responsibilities must be shared. It cannot make sense in a province like Gauteng, for example, where majority is youth, but there's not even one young MEC. And it's business as usual. That's anti-revolutionary. Now, as we restore the Freedom Charter, we must agree that the ANC has also achieved. has created different classes, but more must be done because majority of our people are still dispositioned. The Freedom Charter is still a relevant document even today until it's fully implemented. Until we've arrived to the National Democratic Society, the Freedom Charter will always be relevant because we must all arrive in heaven, which is the National Democratic Society. It's a heaven we must all be in. We build it with the NTR, with the goal to arrive there. But we can't do that if we're not focused, if we're in discipline, if we're an organization that no one takes serious, or we speak in communities, people close their ears. When you enter townships or villages, they say, they see your cars, they see everything, they say, but these ones are stealing from us. We can't do that if we're in the face of poverty. We can't do that if we're in the face of corruption. We can't do that if we're in the face of discipline. We can't do that if we're a racist organization. Because the ANC, if it does not urgently act on its how it looks now, then it does not reflect really what South Africa looks like. The meeting here is even better. It's a reflection a bit of what South Africa looks like. But the real meetings of the movement don't really reflect this. It's a fact. Are we what we fought for? Now we must use today Collen Malatji Day to say enough is enough. We must bring back the ANC to the people, and the ANC must reflect the people. Maybe we need to regather again. The Congress of the people must gather again and say, I know there's a national dialogue coming. We must gather again and coordinate ourselves and say, are we still in the right direction? Even when days are dark, they say friends are few. Those who were with us in 94, the Communist Party were with us in 94, governing with us since then. When days are dark, they are saying that they can't be with us. It's like when you are married, then you lose your job, then your partner says that you can't be with you anymore, but when you're working, you're together. That's what we are. We're contesting unions. No, everywhere we're contested by our own allies that we agree that we're advancing the NTR together. At our weakest, the enemy is getting closer, our friends are moving away from us. The revolution is suspended. We've never thought one day we'll say to the TA, expect a TA to advance the NTR. You was only put minister for the TA because you're underneath, because you've been pushed back. You are expecting the minister of the TA to advance the NTR. We are expecting them to advance the program. Every day we are kissing frogs. Because our people have left us because we are no longer representing what they want the movement to represent. They have never left us and went elsewhere. They are saying self-correct. Now that's where we are. Now the revolution is about to be suspended if we don't self-correct. And when the revolution is suspended, the people of South Africa will suffer. Everyone will be displaced. You will have a TA government here in South Africa. You have a TA government already in the Western Cape. People of Plato, Philippi, everywhere that's positioned. When you land, you just go straight to Cape Town Hotel, you will go back home, you can't even go to Plato yourselves. Because when right-wingers take power, they only serve the minorities, and their main project is to reverse the gaze of freedom. Every day, getting us to court, Afro-Forum, everyone else, because their objective is very clear, is to reverse the gaze of freedom, and majority of South Africans must be oppressed. They must oppress them, and systems must come in of exploitation. They don't believe that was ever part of South Africa. They don't believe that blacks were disposition. They don't believe it. They believe that life was normal, black people are just lazy. Now those are areas when we revive our culture and speak about. the issue of education. We can have an education system that is just a free for all. The education system of South Africa must be responsive and reflect the economic demands of this country. When you teach a child from KwaZulu-Natal in Limpopo business management, you are saying which business is going to manage. Because the whole family, no one can ever own a business that family. But when you teach them agriculture, when you teach them mining, when you teach them, when you make them artisans, when you create economic characters that are responsive to every provincial demand, whether it's agricultural province, Gauteng, whatever is requested in those areas, you are training economic activists. Because they will be able to be responsive to the economic demands of the country. Now, as an agenda is to respond to the Freedom Charter, to say that every young person must be able to be responsive to the economic demands of their own country. Even churches have left us, because we only go there when we want them to vote for us. Our branches are not led by pastors anymore. They are led by drunkards in the townships and villages. Now, we need to use the 70 years to reflect that are we still the ANC that is led by the best in society? Now, I felt like Collen Malatji, I was raising all these issues while I clubbed them. It will take us the whole day. But I felt that I must raise these issues in respect and support of those that selflessly, when there were no government deployment, they joined the ANC and the Congress of the People with their bloods. You know, we joined the Act from COSAS, Leonzamo, we joined SASCO, we joined, but we were an option. It was not illegal to be part of the movement. Their comrades who joined with their blood. I wonder every day when they see us misrepresenting what they joined for, do they regret that we should have just, because some of them already are black middle class, do they regret that we should have just enjoyed the benefits, the little benefits of apartheid that were given and not fought, because it looks like what we fought for, it is not what the people who are leading represent. If we fight for people to steal from the poor, I want to give you time to get us. Are we a reflection of what we fought for and we were ready to die for? Because I'd be worried myself if I look at myself. That are we, if I was there in 1955, was I going to take a shortcut for the option of the Congress of the People? Now, in conclusion, we must celebrate 70 years and revive our cultures and go back to our structures, our corners, and say that we are ambassadors of a Freedom Charter. Thank you very much.